Guru Veda Chanjaya Darikaya Tadari Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranam devotees. So I just wanted to do a short video and give an explanation of something that was asked to me by one devotee very recently. And it's something that I've spoken on before. And it essentially deals with the methodology that is used by our acharyas to explain Gaudiya theology. So there are four basic things that are used, and one of them has two divisions. So it's either a history, an ontology, a narrative, or the Siddhanta. It's not that the Siddhanta is a separate thing, because all of those things, whether it's history, ontology, or narrative, they're all in pursuit of establishing the Siddhanta, the absolute conclusive truth. The Siddhanta also has two divisions according to Tattva Gata Vichar, which is the absolute truth as a philosophical conclusion, and Rasa Gata Vichar, which is the absolute truth according to bhav, or according to mood, right? According to the realization coming as a result of having established realization regarding oneself and Bhagavan, Bhagavan's Leela, Bhagavan's associates, etc. So I just want to give quick examples of each of them and to better explain what I'm speaking about. So a history is obviously like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and in the Puranas there are also many histories that are discussed. So histories like the Mahabharata are called itihasa. The word itihasa means iti ahasa, something that is spoken exactly as it happened. Similarly, in the Puranas, there are many narrations of histories that are used in order to explain a particular point or explain a particular teaching called upakyan, etc. So they are also histories, genuine histories. But sometimes in the Puranas, a narrative may be used. So what do I mean by a narrative? The story of Maharaj Prachinabhari and Sri Narada Muni and the story of Puranjan is an allegorical story. It's not really an actual history, but it was an allegorical story narrated by Narada Muni to Maharaj Prachinabhari as a narrative to elucidate and to help Maharaj Prachinabhari understand what is Atma Tattva. Okay? So that's an example of a narrative. What is ontological statements? So an ontological statement, for instance, would be like Srila Jiva Goswami Pad in the first Anuched of Bhakti Sandarbha. Before he begins to describe what is the practice of bhakti, he describes the position of the Bhara Jiva. So he mentions that previously, Paramatma Vaibhava Ganane, Jiva Tatastha Shakti Rupanam Chireka Rasanam, Api Anari Tattva Parama Jnanam, Asamsarga Bhavamaya. What is this then? Tad by Mukya Chidaya Labhya, Maya Avrita Surupa Jnananam. Thaya Eva Sattva Rajas Tamo Jade Maye Pradane. Jiva, what is this? Atma Rachitam Jivam Samsara Dukkam Ganapitam. So this is one verse spoken there in that Anuched, which describes the ontology of the position of the Bhara Jiva. So it's saying that previously in the Paramatma Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami had discussed the glory of Paramatma. In the course of discussing that, he discussed the differentiation of the Paramatma from the Jivatma. In discussing the Tatastha Jiva, he described 21 qualities of the Atma, etc., etc. But then he also described here in summary what is the position of the Tatastha Jiva. Chit Ekarasanam, that the Jiva is in a neutral posture in relation to Bhagavan. Because they are not imbued with Swarup Shakti, the cognition of Bhagavan, his personality, his Dham, his associates, etc., is samsaraga abhav. It means prag abhav. In the Jiva, there is no prior understanding of these things. You understand? Constitutionally, we're the Das of Krishna. Dasa Bhuti Hariyeva, Nanya Sheva Karachana. This is a fact. Jiva Goswami has also mentioned. But the cognitive understanding of, or having the cognition of who is Bhagavan, who am I, what is my relationship, that is abhav, prag abhav in the Jiva. Prag abhav means it is a prior non-existence of that understanding in the Bada Jiva. And it is anadi. Anadi means it literally has no beginning. You understand? So there isn't a history you can trace out of when the Jiva lost understanding of being the Das of Krishna. It is a feature that is anadi in the Jiva. And Jiva Goswami has explained this word anadi to mean something that has no beginning, but it does have an end. So the end will be when the arising of spiritual impressions come, and then the choice to start to take to the path of self-realization, that becomes the beginning of the end of the absence of knowledge about God. So here he's saying, Chidekarasan, the Jiva is neutral. Because the Jiva is neutral and they're void of Swarup Shakti, the knowledge of God, Tad Vaimukya Chidaya Labhya, the state is obtained of being Vaimukya. Vaimukya means turned away from God's interest and turned towards our self-interest. But this is again an ontological statement, not a historical one. So he's not speaking that there was a time when we turned away, etc., etc. He's saying this is a ontological reality of the Bada Jiva. The word ontology means the state of how something exists, or the nature of something, or the operational principle of something. You understand? So it's not a historical thing. It is a statement of ontology, the nature of something. So the nature of being a Tatastha Jiva are these things. Because of that, Maya Sarupa Avritti Jnananam, the nature of the Jiva's constitution of being the Das of Krishna, being Satchidananda, etc., is covered. And because of that, the Jiva, therefore, associates with the three modes of material nature. Other than that, it would not be possible. The Jiva is cognizant of their actual spiritual nature. They could not associate with the material energy. And even in the absence of that knowledge, the association with the material energy is vicarious, not connective. In other words, asanga hiyanyam purusha. The Jiva never touches material energy. It's a vicarious identification. So he says that sattva rajas amo jade maye pradane. He associates with the modes of nature via this vicarious mechanism as a result. As a result of that, he becomes acquainted with jivam samsara dukkha, with the dukh related to being samsari, means being in the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. He becomes acquainted, Gyanapitam, with the experience of that. Because that experience of suffering is not in the Atma proper. Jiva Goswami described the Atma is Chit Ananda Atmaka, and then in the commentary of that it mentions it is Dukkha Pratiyogita. It means it is void of any kind of actual misery in the Atma itself proper. So this is an ontological statement. So I've dealt with history, I've dealt with narrative, I've dealt with ontology. So I'm going to give another example of narrative and a combination of it with ontology from our own Srila Prabhupada. Our Srila Prabhupada, upon his preaching in the West, miraculously and ingeniously found a way to communicate the concept of being constitutionally related to God, but at the same time understanding our current condition and the need to repent, so to speak, or to readjust our lives to realize that fact. So there's a very famous statement that Srila Prabhupada mentions: we are all originally Krishna conscious beings. Now, if you listen to that statement and you took it according to regular English parlance, original is a historical statement. Original means I was something at one time and then I was not that thing. You understand? So if you looked at it from that simple English parlance and you did not understand a deeper theological implication here, then you would construe we were once with Krishna literally, historically, and somehow fell away from that relationship. But of course, that opens a ocean of Siddhantic issues. You understand? For one, you cannot fall from a relationship with Krishna. Savata Dongsaraitam, Yarapi Dongsakarane. Rupa Goswami Pad explained. Even if there's a reason for love to break in relation to Krishna, it doesn't break. So what to speak of, the idea that the relationship could be broken for some illusion. And of course, if you were in a relationship with Krishna, it would mean you were in the spiritual world, and it's not possible, Damna Swena Sadam Nirastam Kuhakam, that any kind of illusion can enter the spiritual world. So there's no pretext under any circumstances which you could fall from an established relationship in the spiritual world with Krishna. So I'm not going to go down that track. I've done other videos on that. And of course, it's not about me. It's about so many acharyas have clearly explained it, including our Srila Prabhupada. I think it's 7.135. In that purport, he just is very direct that unless there's something to be done on behalf of the Lord, no one falls from Vaikuntha. So that's a very established clarification if there was any misunderstanding. But the narrative was ingenious because the Judeo-Christian dominance in the Western world lends itself to that narrative. Because if we grew up in the Judeo-Christian paradigm, we had the idea that we were with God and we fell, and after falling, we're in a state now to try to repent and recover that relationship. So when you look at it from the narrative point of view, it's an excellent narrative to help us understand two things. One is that the relationship with a personal God is not unusual or foreign, because we're all originally of that nature. The statement original here means constitutional. So it is pretty much a synonym contextually to the word constitution. We are constitutionally always related to Krishna. Not historically, but constitutionally we are the Das of Krishna. Jivara Swarupoya Krishna and Nitya Das. Right? So Srila Prabhupada, by using this word in context, meaning we have a constitutional relationship with Krishna, from which we are now in an ignorant position related to that, and we need to adjust by the practice of bhakti to reestablish it. So that's an example of an ontology and a narrative mixed together. The last thing is Siddhanta. So an example of a Siddhantic statement is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This is a Tattva Gata Vichara Siddhantic statement. It is part of the Paribhasa Sutra, or the established definition of all of Srimad Bhagavatam. Understand? That this verse, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, establishes Krishna Swayam Bhagavan. All incarnations have come from Krishna. Ramari Muteshu Kalar Niyamena Tishtan. Nanavatam Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. Krishna Swayam Samavat Paramam Pamanyo Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, Krishna is established as Swayam Bhagavan, the original, the source of all incarnations, source of everything. Just like in Chatur Shloki, Hameva Shameva Guri verse, right? Krishna is everything, before, during, and after the creation. Understand? So that is a Tattva Gata Vichar statement of Siddhanta. That Krishna is asked by Nanda Baba, go and bring my chappal, my slippers. And Krishna goes, but Krishna cannot lift these slippers of Nanda Baba. So he's struggling how to manage to carry the slippers of Nanda Baba. But he's Swayam Bhagavan, who's the creator of the whole world. Both of those statements are absolute Siddhantic statements. That in Rasa Gata Vichar, Krishna cannot lift the chappals of Nanda Baba. In Rasa Gata Vichar, Krishna cannot understand how to eat properly. Therefore, he has food all over his face and mouth. In Rasa Gata Vichar, Krishna cannot outrun Mother Yashoda. Though he's Swayam Bhagavan, he cannot outrun Mother Yashoda. You understand? So, these things are absolute Siddhantic principles in reality, but from two angles of vision. Tattva Gata Vichar and Rasa Gata Vichar. You understand? So this is called Siddhanta. You understand? So again, in summary, Histories are those things which are narrations of some actual historical events that have happened and are used to inform, clarify, or elucidate a particular point in regard to the ultimate goal of bhakti, which is pure love of God. You'll find those historical statements in actual literatures of history like Mahabharata and Ramayana, and you'll find them narrated in the Puranas. Understand? Then there are narratives. Narratives, I gave the example of Narada Muni to Maharaj Prachinabhari, and I gave a contemporary example of Al Srila Prabhupada in relation to devotees in the West being able to grasp the concept of constitutional relationship with Krishna based on their sort of Judeo-Christian backgrounds of having an idea of falling from grace and reestablishing it. So he used the narrative, we are all originally Krishna conscious living beings, and then he went on to expand that to give us an understanding of how we are constitutionally related to Krishna. Then I gave the example of ontology in Jiva Goswami's verse in Bhakti Sandarbha, Anuched 1, where he describes the position of the Bala Jivas, or the conditioned living entities, by giving a narrative that lays out in sequence how they're conditioned. So though that verse is laid out in a sequential format, it is not a historical event. It's simply an ontological or statement of the nature of how the conditioned souls have acquired this position. So it wasn't based on a timeline of history. It's the nature or operating principle of being a conditioned jiva. And finally, I gave the idea of Siddhanta according to the two different visions of Tattvagata Vichar and Rasagata Vichar. So I'm going to have to end. Oh, Dandavat Chitanand Prabhu, Dandavat Ganga. I hope everything is good with Virginia Nandan Prabhu and all family. So I'm going to end here because this was meant to be short. I actually have other services to do. And so my wife is also waiting because she has services to do and she's waiting for me to finish this. But I told the devotee I would definitely note it down, even though I believe I've done this before, but I would put it in a video format so it could be there for availability. All right, my Dandavat Pranam, Vanche Kalpatrubhischa, Kripa Shindavevacha, Patitanam Pavanavyo, Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.